don't hire anyone with less than 10 years of experience. And we've kind of really fixated on this term, this kind of like more thematic visibility, which is like kind of percentage indicators around success, right? One-to-one attribution is incredibly difficult. There's no playbook around these LLMs at this point. Despite what your LinkedIn feed says, right? SEO is not dead, any of those components. It's exhausting, that narrative.
Tyler Lane, welcome to Coffee with Experts. Good to have you.
Thanks, Austin. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
So as an agency owner, an experienced agency owner, and a multiple times entrepreneur, there is, I think in social media these days, it's like the cool thing to be an entrepreneur. And the barrier to entry to enter into marketing, into the agency space, it's dropped a lot. It's much easier to, let's say, start an agency, which makes competition harder and harder. What's the competitive advantage for a more experienced agency owner that puts you ahead of the curve in terms of, landing clients, delivering the best results? How do you stand out is what I'm asking.
Yeah, it's tough, right? As you mentioned, it's becoming more and more saturated, if you will. That said, I think there's clearly this seemingly this endless sea of client opportunities. We have particular niches that we target. However, we remain agnostic. So that's one way of continuing to keep a diversified client roster and not necessarily fixating on one particular niche, so that it just allows us to expand. I think also is just that word experience, right? It's fairly general, but that's it. We've been around the block. At Session, we don't hire anyone with less than 10 years of experience. So it's really getting senior teams that have seen a lot and evolved a lot. SEO and paid media and analytics have evolved significantly over the last decade. And that just giving that baseline, allowing us to have that perspective has been really helpful. But overall, really, it's just relationships, Austin, right? It's individuals that we've cultivated quality relationships over the years that we continue to maintain and endorse and support them. And ultimately, they continue to keep us top of mind, right? So that leads to expanded referrals and other acute project issues or acute problems that they need to approach us with. And then lastly, it's just really about continuing to support it, but through ongoing advice and not necessarily seeking out a return immediately. I think people approach me and other team members or individuals on our team for, hey, can you take a quick look at this? Or what are your thoughts or perspective? And we don't necessarily have a contract with these individuals. We're always quick to state, we're happy to chat with you. It's an open source. There's so many great individuals in the community that just allow and access their time. And I think that's, for us, is just we want to make sure we're continuing to see growth internally, but also externally, regardless if they're a contract or an active client or not.
Jab, right hook type of deal.
No doubt.
You mentioned like community, which we were talking about with, Built to Convert. You have the podcast that's, it's made for relationships and expanding your reach. And then you also have TKL Consulting, which is, it almost sounds like that's what you're talking about without actually charging or billing per hour, putting your eyes on something to someone who's not a client. With Session Interactive, how do all three of those ideas combine? Is there like a workflow? Is there like an entry point? What's the overall strategy, if there is one, or do you keep them all separate?
Yeah, keep them integrated for the most part. I mean, I think the TKL Consulting arm really is myself and select team members consulting on prioritized projects, if you will, right? Everything else gets rolled into Session for our kind of management structure and ongoing strategy iterations with our core clients group. And then, of course, the podcast is really just meant to support our existing client base with ongoing thought leadership and feedback on particular campaigns within particular industries. So we keep that improvement and send that to our active client set to ensure that they're aware that we're keeping things progressive and we're staying on top of the latest trends and industry updates. And it does, expands the network too, and allows people to have a voice and the ability to transcribe and distribute that content into a variety of formats. As we were talking before, shout out to Ross Simmons, who really coined that phrase of create once, distribute forever. And we really subscribe to that, and clients and prospects and individuals that we respect that have joined us on the podcast, that resonates with them. And it's important to really dedicate time and effort to your personal brand. And that's what we want to support on ourselves, but more importantly, those individuals that attend the podcast and others.
Yeah, personal brand becoming more and more important. I mean, it already has been, right?
Yep.
And then you mentioned like the distribution. Our founder and CEO just co-authored a book called Digital PR Unfiltered,
It's
and
awesome.
one of the main takeaways is really digital PR is about distribution.
Mm.
I guess how are you thinking about, either entity recognition or like basically, yeah, how are you getting the Session Interactive brand out there so that
Mm.
clients can find you, and what's the strategy to get your agency seen?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's a similar strategy to what we suggest and manage for our clients. I think, if rewind or go back 3 to 4 to 5 years ago, where, really specific line items within SOWs for our clients and kind of for ourselves too. Of like, this is our content marketing strategy. This is our, related or unrelated SEO strategy, which, really should be related, our paid media approach, social media, et cetera. And a lot of that was very siloed. And I
Mm,
think ultimately it's, classic line sounds fairly cliche, but we want to break those as much as possible for ourselves as well as for our clients. So integrate as much as possible. So whereas before, we're conducting expanded audience based research and creating content briefs and essentially having the team, our team or the client's team generate content, posting that content, then on to the next. And that's just archaic process that is, we're suggesting distribution of that content to a client or ourselves around, we need to distribute that on email and, through our newsletter or through social platforms, et cetera. And those are encouraging statements, but now it's a mandate at this point, right? It's like, what are you doing actively to continue this conversation,
mm,
to support this content as people are looking to digest it in a multitude of different formats, whether it's an LLM or Google search or through social platforms? That's where that distribution place and content diversity statement really resonates. And
mm,
I think as clients continue to understand how audiences are changing and evolving, that they're becoming more and more aware that they need to distribute effectively and continuously. The whole
mm.
thing around, I think we've all heard it around like, post fatigue or audience seen that too many times. I think that's bullshit, right? To be honest, I think there is, opportunity to refresh headlines, to refresh creative aspects and continue to drive to the core concept that has been distributed countless times already.
Mhm.
So I think that's the big thing is not how we've evolved of suggesting distribution, suggesting content diversification into more mandating it. And I think
Mhm.
that's a big thing of like, hey, if we want to see this partnership be successful, you need to make sure we're honing in on where the audience is gravitating and conducting research and evaluating the product or service. And that's where we need to come up. And oftentimes that's daunting to Austin, right? Because there's
Yeah.
so many different things. So it is prioritizing those, conducting due diligence and reviewing it on a quarterly basis, if not more frequently, and then essentially taking advantage of those platforms and or different asset types.
Yeah. A lot and all the time,
Yeah.
but high quality. But high quality,
Yep.
right?
Totally. It's
Yeah,
it's a lot. It's daunting for a lot of individuals to think, oh, I need to be all everywhere and oh, I got to
for
really
sure.
prioritize Reddit. It's like, yeah, okay, there's some things to prioritize, but I think it's, we kind of also take is there it's a daunting component, but prioritization is key. And let's
Mm,
conduct the research, let's continue to expand the audience research through quantitative and qualitative metrics and then prioritize, right? And
mhm.
not spread ourselves too thin and then graduate to other channels as needed as we're seeing an effective usage. And the tools are out there, right? The tools are really
Mhm.
helping us evolve and helping us distribute and diversify content a lot faster than we ever have before.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna ask you about your tech stack,
Is-
but we were just at Brighton SEO
Nice.
as one of the we were an exhibitor there,
Love it.
and I got the opportunity to speak with a lot of agency owners, a lot of SEOs from around the world. And what like the trend that I saw was the ones who were really getting it and they were really understanding and they were finding traction in the new AEO world
Hmm.
is the ones who had a strong grasp on data. They had many data points, and it can be difficult if you don't have a big team to aggregate that and people who are responsible for different data sets. I'm curious, what's the signal when it comes to data that's the most important for your agency, but also when you look at clients and help them grow? It seems like there's a lot of noise out there. Like, what are the key data points you're looking at?
Yeah, so much noise. And I think we talk about this a lot on our podcast, but it's, the skepticism, the trepidation, the intimidation, and we go, noise, love it. And I think a differentiator of ours, not to talk about ourselves too much here, but is our analytics department. And we've always had that foundational approach around trying to get the data right as much as possible before any formal client relationship can start. And it's not just about web analytics. It's really trying to hone in on other core business components around CRM data, around, expanded insights within the operational aspects of a company, and really honing in on product and service subject matter experts as well, and trying to gather as much data as possible, knowing that a lot of it is muddled and not the most accurate in a lot of sense. I think there's always this like, hurry up, let's get started with the campaign. And we want to take more of a methodical and thoughtful approach to state like, no, let's wait. Yeah, we need to get things in market, but we also need to make sure the data is accurate. And we've kind of really fixated on this term. It's kind of like more thematic visibility, which is like kind of percentage indicators around success, right? One-to-one attribution is incredibly difficult. The attribution models from last click to multi-touch, you name it, are complex and never incredibly accurate. So it's educating the client, understanding that goals and KPIs at the company level really maybe remain consistent, but at the platform and marketing ecosystem level, they need to evolve, especially as LLMs and have become more ubiquitous to a certain extent, is the attributions becoming even more difficult there. So utilizing platform tech or a tool stack of obviously, baseline data in terms of web analytics within Google Analytics or Adobe, and then piping a lot of that into data warehouses, data lakes, BigQuery in particular, has been incredibly powerful for us to see what's happening, see what isn't happening. And that is educating us more and more around audience related insights and being able to be just a bit more strategic with our clients as we roll out structured campaigns. So yeah, easier said than done, but it's a lot of good insights that we can be derived out of those data points.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the main, when you say experience, talking about what's a competitive advantage versus early agencies, I do think a lot of it does come down to the research and the data and the understanding of trends and like the real-time feedback of what's happening in audiences. Early agencies might not have that sort of background or that capacity to do. So going in, you mentioned GA4 and Adobe. What other, what are your key tools that you're using in your tech stack that help guide your decisions today?
Sure. Yeah. So I'll talk with that. But one thing just to note around kind of new agencies getting started, I think, which is something interesting, Austin, is experience really empowers an individual to call bullshit on these LLMs too, right? When you're structuring, educating, and training up these LLMs with your memory and customizations within custom GPTs, we've been in this game for a long time, as others have as well, of course, right? So putting together strategies or outlining different plans, we're able to scrutinize things a lot better versus perhaps a new agency owner or individual getting started newly in marketing over the last couple of years. They're going to take the thoughts from these LLMs as gospel in certain cases. And I think that's just something that you can't get, like, experience just handles that for the most part. So it's just something to be aware of as we see more and more companies getting started, more and more marketing teams getting started, and really utilizing LLMs a lot, which is great, but also a little bit nerve-wracking in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
So, sorry, the question was really around tool stack, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's, foundationally, we're utilizing Google products, of course. And as I mentioned, Adobe's, or agnostic there. And then at the platform level, it runs the gamut, right? We have a ton of different tool sets for our SEO team and how that's evolved into AEO, GEO, and tracking. We're utilizing a company called Rank Scale. There's 1,000,001 prompt and LLM related trackers, and not saying the most accurate by any means. We're finding that out pretty quickly. But the technical side is a lengthy list of tools. From analytics side, we're agnostic as it relates to data connectors, from funnel to supermetrics, you name it. We're in it and working with that. And then it's the same thing with data visualization, from Looker to Tableau to Domo, et cetera. We've continued to use them all and wanted to cure and customize to clients as needed. And for paid, right, we're using channel and supporting aggregating and management tools there. The list is quite lengthy. I don't know if I can rattle them all off. And I think that's also intimidating too, because there's so many different tools that are coming out, automation related tools with workflows, and of course, monumental strides that these LLMs have been taking every week, it seems. with a ChatGPT's partnership with Shopify and Merchant Center components, that's going to be a game changer in the next few months. We'll see what rolls out there. So it's intimidating, and I think that's what we're constantly evaluating and wanting to test out tools, but realizing like, listen, our monthly budget for these tools is not endless, so we need to be tactful. And that's also too is just one component is like same with prioritization for clients' needs. Same thing with us. It's like, let's pick a workflow tool and own it and run with it and learn it really well. Understand that there's competitors out there, but we're going to pick Gumloop, or we're going to pick Lovable or Cursor or N8N or Make.com, and we're going to run with one of those tools for now and then evolve the tool stack as needed.
Yeah, and you keep saying the word agnostic, which I think is really important. It's like, I just want to take advantage of whatever works. You're not tied to anything. It sounds like you use HubSpot as a CRM, and that's completely fine. Most of the feedback that I get from HubSpot is that it is based around price, and that's pretty much it. Everything else is like amazing. But in terms of your client work, right? When somebody comes to session and they're like, "Hey, I need help with marketing," is it typically like, is there a top of the funnel? Like, is there an entry point into the business? What do they come to you guys for in general? And then how do you upsell or cross sell down the road? Like, is there?
Yeah. And I think you just like clients are coming to us typically with, again, an acute problem or issue with a particular channel. And then they're coming with like, hey, we just need digital marketing help as a whole, and here's what we're doing currently, and we think we can do better. And I think both of those are great entry points. I think before, years ago, it was audit and then scope right away. We get into management scope, and I realizing clients are getting audited to death, and it's just like such a eye roll kind of trite pitch process. Let's just audit, and it's a fact finding mission. It's not a strategy. Right. I think that's, as we've evolved over the years, it's like, okay, realizing that we're kind of missing the boat as it relates to conducting incredibly thorough discovery on your ICP, your product and service, meeting with those granular teams is essential versus sending over an intake form. But, hey, fill out these and yep, that's good. We're good. No, it's like we need to continue to evolve. Then we get into the audit process, which continues to be that fact-finding mission. Again, very clear with clients that is not a strategy. We've seen it so many times, Austin, where we get in, let's talk for SEO, for example, could be for anything. And it's like XYZ is wrong with your site, so fix it. It's like, that's not a strategy. Like, let's understand your audience and really where you need to prioritize. So that's where the strategy deliverable comes into play of gleaning all the insights from discovery and audit and being able to prioritize and thinking outside of just channel specific strategies and really trying to go into more holistic marketing engagements, then getting into a detailed roadmap with a full understanding that roadmap is likely going to blow up after the first 3 months because it's important. We need to evaluate. We need to get to know each other. We need to set core expectations around what responsibilities are in what camp and then go and run with it, realizing that it's going to evolve. Shout out to Larry, the ex-COO at Seer Interactive. Him and I chatted a number of years ago and positioning QBRs as more growth plan initiatives to support cross-selling, upsell opportunities. So as we get in my lighting is going weird. I don't know what's going on here. As we get into a management for a client, I think it's the natural component is to structure a quality QBR, right? Go figure, but have a component. Let's say they're fixated on SEO and content marketing and analytics, for example. Great. What other value add efforts, not arbitrary by any means, what value add can we support within the QBR to essentially hone in on additional components to support our core channel offering as well expanded. So, suggesting paid or digital PR or, content collaboration opportunities, the list goes on. So we really want to be structured and hone in on that and promote that within the QBR so they understand like we're not just thinking about our channel, we're thinking holistically as much as possible and honing in on the value add components. So that's really around the cross-sell, upsell opportunities.
Tyler, I noticed your energy changed when we started talking about strategy and client relationships and upsell and cross-sell.
Totally.
What really gets you excited either in SEO or in marketing or just in business in general? Like, what do you spend your time thinking about these days?
Yeah. I'll be honest, as Gen AI came out a number of years ago, 3 years ago now-ish, it was an interesting place. I think there's, despite what your LinkedIn feed says, right? SEO is not dead, any of those
Yeah.
components. It's exhausting, that narrative. But it got me thinking a lot of ways. I was like, initially I was just like, wow, I was a little skeptical in certain things. I was also just like, what's going on? Right. And then realizing a number of years later, just how this is it's just a cool opportunity that we get to be a part of. Right.
Hmm.
We are so fixated on this monopoly of Google really dictating our engagements with clients. And
Mm.
now it's an opportunity to learn and hone in on how clients or how prospects or audiences are digesting content differently. And I
Hmm.
think it's a cool opportunity. I feel excited. I'm optimistic, as things evolve and get into a place, and being able to, have that experience to know that we can benefit clients, right? And know
Mm.
that no one's an expert in what's going on with these LLMs. No, if despite what anyone may tell you, that's a big thing that I was just the more people think they have a plan and it can execute it is the usually snake oil component or on it because people we don't have the playbook. There's no playbook around these
Yeah.
LLMs at this point. So that's, really gets me excited and gets the team excited is the unknowns.
Hmm.
And is that, we want our clients to fixate on their brand, their products and services, make that the best they can. And of course, we want to continue to support that. And we want them to rely on us as, hey, you're in the trenches, you're getting this research, empower us to make the better decisions. It sounds, again, cliche, but it's like that's the relationships that we want, them relying on us. Never do I want a client be like, here's what we're doing. We're doing XYZ. It's like, we're not in the business to do that. We're in the business to
Yeah.
collaborate and to take the lead as it relates to the strategy within our ecosystem. And
Hmm.
so that's the component that gets me excited. And understanding that we're on the cusp, we're on the beginning stages of these LLMs, and that's fun.
It is a lot of fun because there's so many unknowns.
I
And
know. Yeah.
yeah, even the people who are working at these big companies, they're like, it's kind of like the Wild West here,
Yeah.
man. It's a black box. Like, we're
Totally.
doing our best, but who knows? Yeah. You're talking about becoming like a partner to a business, and obviously they would hire you as the marketing branch of their business. There was a conversation I was having with a successful WordPress agency
Hmm.
in the UK.
Nice.
And he was telling me, like, the more I can move up the ladder as a true partner, like, the better the relationship is going to be, the lower churn is, right? So we're not
Totally.
just delivering marketing services. How deep do you go into business operations when you bring on a partner and say they've been with you for several years? Are you talking about profit margins with them? Are you talking about offers, new lead magnets? Not really like C-suite and hiring or anything like that, but I'm curious how deep you go with your small business partners.
Yeah, that's a great question. And as we evolve, really as an agency, I envision us. I think we're doing quite a bit of that now, but I see more impact as we evolve as an agency and starting more getting into 2026. And I'm really envisioning us being having less channel specific SOWs and more kind of immersive SOWs, if that makes sense, as it relates to
Mhm.
marketing, with the fuller understanding that, we're creating custom GPTs, we're creating workflows that are benefiting us and our work with the client. But why can't we create those and have the client utilize them for other departments outside
Mm.
of marketing, for operations, through finance, through other things that they're working and dealing with for their products and research process? There's a lot of different use cases. So I envision us being a lot more involved in the business, and
Mhm.
we're really fixated on mid-market enterprise, but getting those questions and having that pulse is important. And that person you talked with at that WordPress agency is spot on in terms of the partnership component. Again, we want clients to rely on us to be the leads in our industry, the leads in our channels, and just marketing as a whole. And with the understanding that we care and then we want to progress their business alongside. The biggest win, right, is when a client gets promoted, or because of your collaboration, or they leave a company and take you with them. That's just like
Mm.
that's the ultimate. That just makes you feel the best. We have clients that have left and been with 3-4 companies and brought us with us, which is like the coolest compliment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man. So, I envision us being far more immersive. I'm toying. We're never going to be full service, right? I always have a
Mhm.
tough time grasping those full service agencies. Like, oh, you really do
Yeah.
it all? Right?
Yeah. Like,
Like,
really?
like,
Really?
come on, unless you're massive, we're going to
Yeah.
continue to be a nimble shop, 30, 40, 50 people.
Hmm.
But we're not, we're not trying to shoot commercials, right? We're trying to
It,
really be a little bit more strategic. Not saying that's not strategic work, because it is,
yeah, yeah.
but yeah. So anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Fantastic, man. I think that is, again, going back to the top of the conversation, like that mindset of like, I understand business so well, not just marketing, because I think there's a lot of maybe individual contributors who will branch out and say, I'm going to start my own agency, but they don't have the business experience of understanding really at the end of the day, what the strategy and what the marketing is doing for the client.
Mm.
Like it has to be, yeah, it has to drive business results. So as we wrap up here, I feel like the time went super fast, but looking into the future, what are you the most bullish on in the convergence of AI, marketing, SEO specifically, agencies? Like what are you doubling down on?
Yeah. One thing you brought up is just, and we were talking about obviously, is like more business immersion. If
Hmm.
you look at channel practitioners, whether SEO, paid analytics, experts in their field, right? And hopefully they've had a diverse amount of exposure, if you will, to other channels and just marketing as a whole. But I do think just that business acumen lacks a lot across
Yep.
the board. And I think that for me is making sure we are training up our team members and our client services team to make sure they have that core pulse on the business at all times. I think
Mm.
oftentimes too, it's like channels are crushing it, right? But the business is doing terribly, for example. So it
Mm.
makes us expendable, right? When maybe perhaps in retrospect we could have asked more questions or becoming like aided in support, and realized that our retainer is more flexible than the client perhaps envisioned. So I think those are more business immersion, training up the team members to get them going. I think that's really where we're continuing to focus and wanting to make sure we deepen those relationships. In addition to talking, kind of answering your questions in terms of the future here, hopefully that we'll all agree to a name of what the hell, GEO, AEO, whatever AEIO we're calling it.
It's just SEO.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's, a lot of amazing people that I respect in the industry that are saying, it's just SEO. Other people are like, it's changing, and it's clear that it's different, right? The foundational core aspects of SEO are clearly influencing it.
Mhm.
Are we going out and we are creating custom GEO related plans? Yes, to a certain extent, but with reliance on some of those core foundational marketing roots and SEO foundational elements about the audience. Really,
Mhm.
doesn't seem to be changing much at all. It's exciting just to understand how we can continue to leverage the experience that we have of these senior team members and tack on custom GPTs, tack on,
Mm.
expanded workflows. And again, not replacing these individuals, but essentially allowing them to be far more strategic than they are, getting out of some of the mundane remedial tasks. The easiest use case for workflows or ideation within AI and LLM or workflow related tools is to start with those mundane remedial tasks, those time consuming tasks, so we can automate certain aspects of that to allow team members to be far more strategic. That was always the classic thing with clients, is like, hey,
Mhm.
we want reports every week. It's like, well, you don't need reports every week.
Yeah.
We want to spend more time optimizing your campaigns versus reporting these numbers to you, which are not going to change so dramatic from week to week. So those
Mhm.
are certain things. Those are the type of partners that we really want and continue to cultivate. Yeah, those are the things that we're excited about for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I love it, man.
yeah, man.
And the future is going to arrive no matter what. And where we're at in the future, really
It's
depends
wild.
on how good you are at keeping up with studying and staying on top of things and like saying that you know what's going on. But even though it's a black box, it's like, here are the results and here's what the data shows.
No doubt.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's,
Just embrace that fail forward mentality with anything, right? It's just like,
yeah.
listen, we need to test. And that again, that's the type of partnership. It's like at the end of the day, we're performance based in terms of, if we're not showing performance, why the hell are you working with us? Right. And we'll
Hmm.
be the first one to raise our hand and be like, this is not working out based
Yeah.
on XYZ limitations or bandwidth concerns, whatever it may be. And I think a great partnership for anyone, not just us, is of course being able to talk to a client and be like, hey, we're going to test this out. And what are your
Hmm.
thoughts? Yeah, we're confident. Here's the hypothesis. Here's the details. We want to run with this. And that's the type of client to stay like, yes, go ahead, move forward with this. Let's test it out. And those are the type of relationships we want to continue to cultivate.
Yeah. Someone who understands that marketing is not straightforward. It's
No
like
doubt.
we're dealing with people, really marketing is just psychology and action, I think.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
exactly.
As versatile and volatile as humans are, so is marketing.
It
So,
is. Yeah.
very good. Tyler Lane, where can we find more about you and about your businesses online?
Yeah, Austin, I appreciate the time today. So sessioninteractive.com, we keep things up to date. Classic, core pages aren't changing much aside from our new, over the last year, the GEO page and service offerings, and evolving our practice area around that. But the blog is updated continuously with thoughts, thought leadership, perspective. And then, of course, we have a weekly updated podcast that's getting distributed. Very active on LinkedIn, the company page, or myself. You can find me on there, Tyler Lane. The LinkedIn URL is. Drop me a DM. Love to chat. Always looking for people to join the podcast as well. Austin, appreciate it, man.
Very good. Thanks again, Tyler.
Of course.